Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Team Oscar Rivas want answers. They want to know, did Dillian Whyte fail a pre-fight drug test? Did he have traces of a performance-enhancing drug in his system? Because the information flow has been next to nothing from it, according to Rivas' promoter, Yvonne Michel. So these allegations broke following the fight on July 20th. Rivas lost that by unanimous decision. Whyte emerged the victor. He gets the WBC mandatory challenger spot as well as the interim WBC title. But news broke via boxingscene.com, who reported Whyte had failed a test, and later it emerged not only that, there was, as Eddie Hearn called it, as a result of an incident, Dillian Whyte had to front a panel, a UCAD hearing ahead of his fight with Rivas, in which he was ultimately cleared to fight. But Team Rivas, they knew nothing of this. In fact, Yvonne Michel says they learned through the media of this entire situation. So the full facts of the matter have not come out. They may not come out for some time, but we do know there was some form of incident. Dillian Whyte did have to front a panel, but he was cleared to fight. Some of the specifics and other matters surrounding this whole case, very murky, shrouded in mystery, and it could be some time before some of this comes out, as I said. But Yvonne Michel, on Twitter, on social media, he says, "Nobody told us anything regarding the situation before the fight or after. We only learn information through media. We are now collecting information wherever it is available, and we will take advice in order to protect Oscar Rivas' interests." And in another message on Twitter as well, Yvonne Michel says, "We are still amazed on what has happened, and more, we don't understand what has been the overall process. If Whyte tested positive for PED, why has he been cleared to fight? On what ground or rules? That decision has certainly made a huge impact on Rivas' future in and out of the ring." And also, Yvonne Michel retweeted Matthew Macklin, basically saying that Rivas should have been told and notified that there was some sort of situation if they were happy to go ahead with the fight, etc., but they should have been notified. And I think this is one of the things that has emerged from this whole situation, is that Rivas was left completely in the dark, completely unawares. We can certainly make a moral argument that, given he was the opponent, and if there was some sort of situation regarding performance-enhancing drugs and a failed test, and this is the allegation, that he probably had a right to know. In terms of Eddie Hearn, the rival promoter who promotes Dillian Whyte, he has made it very clear that the systems and processes that are in place, for UCAD, the British Boxing Board of Control, they have followed all the rules, they have done all the right things. Certainly, I think people have a view on whether morally Rivas needed to know and should have been told and informed. Eddie Hearn has made an argument to the counter that potentially that could have been bad for Rivas, but I think for some people they believe that Rivas should have been given the opportunity to pull out of the fight given what happened. Maybe this exposes, for many people, a flaw in the system, because had this news not come out, Rivas would have been none the wiser, and potentially for some time, because I think as we understand it now, there is still a process that is being undertaken. There is a B sample, and potentially there is going to be a process with UCAD and other bits and pieces, an investigation into this whole matter, which could take some time. And say, for example, that ends up taking, 6 months or a year or whatever, and the news hadn't have leaked out. Maybe Rivas would have found out in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months' time. And maybe for them, that would have actually been worse, because time would have moved on, his career would have moved on, and for everyone involved in that, they would have their career gone in a different direction. And their argument is, we should have been notified, we should have known, and that could have influenced what actually happened here. There have been instances, the Alexander Povetkin and Deontay Wilder one. Wilder, was going to be fighting Povetkin in Russia. Trace amounts were found in a test, and then ultimately Deontay Wilder did not fight Alexander Povetkin, but the results of which were known. And this is the thing I think the situation exposes: different treatment around the world and different rules, regulations, commissions. There is different things that are in place in different places, so that leads to inconsistency in the application of what's going on and how these issues are dealt with and treated in different jurisdictions. And it's not to say that this is necessarily the worst process in the world or anything like that, because obviously, as we know, UKAD wants to make sure that Dillian Whyte is treated fairly himself, that he has a right to privacy, that all the facts of the matter are known. There's a B sample. There's all sorts of other things here that have to be taken into consideration. But the fact that this news has leaked early in the process, well, everyone seems to know a lot about what's gone on, but not everything. So we don't have the full picture. We don't have the full facts of the matter. And maybe for fans, it's actually worse knowing now, because obviously it's still so fresh. But I think for Oscar Rivas, if he'd have found out, for example, some, regards to the situation in 18 months' time, it might be worse then, because they could have, what might have been, had he have decided to, if he'd have known, pulled out of the fight and sort of said, look, I'm not comfortable fighting. And there are other issues that could have been raised. Say, for example, if Rivas had have been, if it is in fact found that Whyte is culpable and ends up getting a ban or something like that, and I'm not saying he is, but I'm just saying if you what if the situation, but Rivas had have been injured in that fight, a career-altering injury, there is some questions to be asked about not only insurance, but also morally, should they have been told, a lot of what ifs and that sort of stuff. And there still are a lot of what ifs because we don't know all the information. But I think, many of us do believe if there was a serious situation, and this is allegedly a failed test involving a performance-enhancing drug, that Rivas did have a right to know. But apparently, from what Eddie Hearn is saying, and we're not hearing a lot of anything from UKAD or the British Boxing Board of Control, except to say that they follow the processes in place that they do have with UKAD, etc. Eddie Hearn is saying that everything was above board. But on the outside looking in, with the information that we do know, it does seem a little bit, murky what has happened. Especially the opposition fighter, given the accusations, had no knowledge of this. And there has been a lot of commentary, and I wanted to note on this point that Whyte should be considered innocent until, all the facts are in. But if there is a failed test, and we're hearing that there is, and if you check out the Athletic article on this, Mike Coppinger actually breaks down the exact trace amounts of the substance that was in Whyte's body, down to the micron, effectively. It's, a very specific, so they obviously have the inside track on some of this information. But I think people are readily forgetting here that it's a strict liability system. Drugs test, you are presumed to be guilty unless you can prove your innocence. It's not like a normal court sort of system where you're innocent until proven guilty. It's actually the other way around. The onus is on him, if there was something in his system, to prove that he's innocent. Obviously, whatever explanation he gave to UKAD, to the panel that he fronted ahead of his fight with Rivas, they were satisfied with the answer. We don't know, because of privacy grounds and this ongoing, investigation, shall we call it, or this process that is underway, what was said and what was the contents of that. And because there is the silence now from all of those who are involved, there's an information vacuum. It's being filled by speculation. It'd be hard to speculate on what has really gone on here with some of these elements, because we just don't know. But this is why some people are jumping to conclusions on certain things. But for me, now that some of this is out there, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I do hope that whatever's happened here, some of the process is expedited, if only to, say if Dillian Whyte is ultimately cleared, to get him cleared faster. We need to have a bit more information on the table here. The fact that this broke publicly at a time where the process was nowhere near complete, it's left things in a very precarious position for all involved. And, I can see Yvonne Michelle's point here that they needed to, for their information, to know that they can't understand what's happened and no one is providing them information. Maybe that would have happened down the track, but right now everyone's sort of been caught on the hop here, and that's part of the issue. So, yeah, it's a very messy and murky situation. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.